Uncuckables.
Hello and welcome back to the weekly Uncuckables show. We're back on the main Uncuckables channel, back in our regular Thursday night slot. Well, I think Dave can explain better than me why there was the no show last week, the special show for the Eden Monaro by-election on the Unshackled channel, and why we're back here now on our main channel.
Hey, yeah, it's a pleasure to be back. We got in a little bit of trouble with Bluetooth for doing the XYZ conference. We couldn't stream last week, but we're back. We're out of YouTube jail.
Yep. Well, for now, I apparently, because we broadcast the rest of the conference, I shouldn't say, well, I broadcast the conference, technical wise, you put it all together. I was just there. I was sitting back most of the time, just sort of waiting for, I just had those few moments where I've got to press the button and then sit back again. But there was another...
Your help was much appreciated, Tim. Thank you.
You got an email from YouTube about a speech that was on the XYZ channel I just heard. Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. You know, we got into a bit of trouble with Blair as well. It seems we're not allowed to have people on who are just a little bit too effective. That's what YouTube actually said. They said, look, Blair is too popular to be actually seen by the masses. He may actually pose a genuine threat to the establishment. Therefore, we have to remove it and put a strike on him. That's literally what they said. Dead set. Honest. Telling the truth.
And so we've got two featured new guests on the Uncuckables this week. They are not on camera, but they've got their flattering photos from their Twitter accounts down the bottom from the Races podcast. We've got Fenian and Scratch, both from the Free State or the Autonomous Zone of Western Australia.
I don't know if I'd call it autonomous, but it's somewhat free. I mean, you still can't go into the First Australians areas without special permits. Funnily enough, I don't think we have to ask the elders for permission. I think it's the government that gives the permission now, which is very problematic in my opinion.
So what are those areas called then, as Aboriginal autonomous zones?
Hope so.
Well, ours. Yes.
Now, apologies for everyone that we were late. We were setting up these photos and everything to make sure that there was at least a face to our guests, because
which are very flattering.
Yes. Well, how about you two introduce what the Races podcast is and what's the history of it, because Dave and I were just going to be blunt. We don't listen to it. But that doesn't mean that it's not good.
Well, you know, if you're going by esotericism and like how underground it is, I guess you could say it's the best. But no, it's like a fake metric. Don't use that. Because that means like all those Antifa podcasts that only white nationalists listen to are the best.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I think we can basically describe our regular shows like a ripoff of FTN, formerly known as Fashion Nation. So we basically take the mundane world of Australian politics and try and put it out in a somewhat entertaining way and from a white nationalist point of view, basically.
And we hope to educate.
Yes.
Because, you know, we live in an education economy, so it's our biggest export, and we hope to be a part of that.
I think the best,
you know, we will be what's the damn word for it? We'll be resented for our leading role.
Yeah.
but without that, Australian podcasting will not survive.
Exactly.
Exactly.
The best way to describe the Uncuckables is basically the YouTube version of what the Footy Show used to be, because it's
Yeah, pretty much.
a lot of politically incorrect guys, and there's a lot of in jokes and banter. We've had a few
Okay.
ladies on over the past year, but the
Really?
feedback we've got is that it should be a bloke show.
That's what I like. The blokes.
Yeah, no-
Just the boys.
No girls allowed.
Yeah. Yeah, the boys.
Right.
The men.
So you don't do like Sam Newman style blackface or anything like that?
Not yet.
Well, I was going to do blueface, but
Oh,
you know.
We could how would you go with a bit of boot polish, Tim? Would you do that?
Boot polish. Well, I've actually seen reverse, because apparently face masks now are counted as blackface, because they took down that episode Hulu, which is owned by Disney now. They took down that episode of the Golden Girls, where Blanche and Rose they meet Dorothy's son's fiance, who's a black woman, and they've got the face mask on, and she thinks that they're wearing blackface, and it's like, no, we don't have blackface on, we've just got mud on our face, and it's like this humorous, awkward thing, but they took it down. But I've actually seen reverse.
You're not even allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, reverse blackface, where those white face masks. I've seen Asians and Indians wear those white skin face masks, so that's whiteface.
Yeah. Well, you see, like, if you've ever been to around those kind of countries and you go to the pharmacy stores, you'll just see a bunch of skin whitening cream all the time. And, all their makeup is like made to try and attain whiter skin.
Well, that's why like L'Oreal and that were putting these statements out about it. But what I want to know is, like, what's their position on solariums, or what about Trump's orange tan? I mean, are we going to say that he's pro-black because he uses tanning products?
I hope so. That's the messed up description I can give for him.
Well, he's got the highest black employment rate of all time. Yes, he could.
Exactly.
Yeah, he got a higher black and Hispanic vote.
And he's let the most black and Hispanic voters out of prison.
Well, the non-violent
he's their guy, really.
Drug offenders. Although
exactly.
he's got a black rival now in the presidential race, Kanye West. He's running on. He's calling it the birthday party.
Birth of a new America. I like where this is going, Kanye. After that weird Christian missionary bit he did before his new album, which I haven't listened to. I mean, I think he's our guy.
Well, because he has met he's met Trump on multiple occasions. He and Kim Kardashian, they were the ambassadors for criminal justice reform that Trump signed. So you could say he's already got policy outcomes. A lot of people think that this is a 4D chess move from Kanye and Trump.
It was to get Kanye's voters out of prison.
No, that there'll be enough black Democrats who'll vote for Kanye when they would never vote for Trump. That's the strategy there.
Well, yeah, good luck with that in in what is a two-party system.
Well, they're trying to do their theory is a vote spoil, but it only really works if like Ralph Nader or Pat Buchanan or Gary Johnson, even a little.
Yeah, well, who was the one who ran against George Bush Sr.?
Yeah, that was Pat Buchanan in '92.
Oh no, I mean the third-party candidate,
Ross Perot.
Ross Perot, that's it. I mean that was the biggest upset, really.
Yeah.
Though it did have the benefit of Bill Clinton winning 2 elections, but without 50% of the vote.
Yes. Well, many elections they don't win. They usually don't win 50% of the vote. Just look at any German chancellor.
Well, I mean, it's funny. If you look at like what Michael Moore says, George Bush Jr. is the only Republican in the past like 20 years or something who actually won the popular vote. But, you know, the obvious response there is, well, how many illegal Mexicans were voting illegally for the Democrats during all that time?
That's just a baseless conspiracy theory, don't you know? There's no evidence, according to CNN, the New York Times, and the authorized fact-checking international network, or whatever it's called.
No, of course not.
Google.
You know, they exposed that urban legend of Hillary White acid washing her emails. No, she actually used a program called BleachBit.
Yes.
Well, I call, when they're taking stuff down from Netflix and Hulu for blackface or whatever offense, I call it online wiping. It's not actually wiping with a cloth. So am I going to be fact checked for that?
Most likely.
Please join us on Entropy. We're, of course, on, well, as I said, back on the Uncuckables YouTube channel. If you're in the YouTube live chat, you can join us on Entropy, where you can ask any of our guests a question.
The N-word trippy.
Pee-wee, as we sometimes call it. And we're also on DLive.tv. We've got a growing DLive audience, mainly thanks to last week's conference as well. As far as I know, DLive hasn't taken any of the XYZ conference videos down. And you can also send a super chat on Entropy. Naughty Design has got a question, where's my stupid poll? I did have a poll idea, but I've completely forgotten what it was.
Well, you're going to get a retarded Polish girl on this show? I mean, I know a couple.
Yeah, we do.
We don't appreciate that type of language. I'm just channeling YouTube here.
Every poll that I've met has been crazy. I don't know about retarded though.
Good crazy, to be fair.
Yeah. Of course, they're Polish.
Yeah. You might want the girlfriend experience, but she wouldn't be good girlfriend material.
Well, you know, where's you just take a trip down to London for that.
Londonistan.
Mm.
I can't believe that Birmingham is still called Birmingham. Like, given that.
I know. Well, no, it's going to be Birmingham. You're going to be Birmingham.
But there's so many British cities which have ham in it. Wolverhampton, Northampton, Southampton. They're going to have to de-ham the place.
Mm. They are, yeah.
Well, that's why you start with Birmingham.
No, but it's still got ham in it. You've got to get rid of the ham.
Yeah.
Yeah, by burning it.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, just going back from ham to Stan. So obviously Birmingham, Wolverhampton, South Stanton.
Yeah, you know what? They'll probably try to pass it off as being half British as well. Yeah.
We've got our first super chat from Philip Cunningham for 10 Australian dollars. Tim, are you going to organise the blood spot? Yeah, Cunningstan, of course. Philip, you'll have to change your name. Actually, it's Philip. That reminds me of Governor Arthur Philip as well. You know,
whose statue is probably getting vandalised right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not in Melbourne, because we're in lockdown again.
Well,
hey, it didn't stop them going after didn't stop them going after St. Patrick's Cathedral. Yeah, is he talking about the blood sport between Ricardo Bossi and Adam Piggott?
Yeah.
That'd be a good one to watch. Very good one to watch.
Why is he asking me to organise it? Dave, Adam's your XYZ guy.
I've already asked Adam. He's up for it.
Well, I guess that's my job to get into Ricardo Bossi. He finally had his...
Yeah, I don't think he wants to talk to me again.
What'd you tell him?
I'm sure he would. The great thing about men is that...
He tried to he tried to tell me that Australia
is a J
it's all
Christian
about
country.
it's all about Western values and culture.
Of course,
it's about culture, not race. It's culture. Yeah.
Well, he is a J Christian after all.
Yeah,
we were founded on J Christian roots.
But he's
absolutely, yeah.
Even though it's a robust and fiery discussion, the thing about men is they get in these, well, both verbal and physical brawls, but they shake hands at the end of them, move on. They don't.
Oh, absolutely.
Heard his big finally, or virtual sit down interview with Thanos Pantigas, the Melbourne Greek face of the anti-lockdown movement on Monday evening. So I was glad those two.
Oh, you spoke with him?
Sorry?
Oh, they met. They met on Monday.
Oh, well, Zoom, they did a Zoom interview, which was beamed to their Facebook group. I probably pronounced his name wrong again. The Greeks in the chat should correct me. Australian Meditations and PC Leaks Pete.
Oh, Osmed's in the chat, huh? What's going on, Osmed?
G'day, Ozzy.
He's under one of his accounts.
Of course. He always is. He's always watching. He's always listening.
Tim, do you still have Avi Yemeni on the show?
No. Last time I spoke to him was, would have been the beginning of 2018, 2 years ago.
Okay, because just because you got that question before about doing a blood sport thing, because I think a really good debate would be between him and Syrian girl, Maram Susli. I don't know if you've seen the back and forths that they have on Twitter, but they're pretty epic.
Well, Avi, from what I hear, has still got to debate Friendly Geordies and Tom Tanuki.
Oh yeah, I remember a bit hearing about that. Yeah.
Like, what is like Friendly Geordies going to debate like Avi Enemy on? Like,
who's paying him?
Yeah. Well, they're both being paid by the same people in the end.
Yeah.
I remember, Friendly Geordies, he went after, Satyajit Mara it was formerly of the Australian Taxpayers Alliance. What was the thing cock-blocked?
Attacking the Koch brothers.
Yeah. Attacking somebody for their funding is a bit rich coming from Friendly Geordies.
Didn't he had a go at the people on the project as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's been having a go at a lot of targets that like I can't like say, well, I can't say I disagree with him, but like it's always for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, he hasn't done that in a long time though. I mean, I remember he went through this brief phase of being a sort of anti-SJW lefty.
Yeah, I liked him.
Kind of like what Bill Maher is, I guess. But that really didn't last too long. And
has he been converged now? Has he?
Well, I remember like around the time he stopped doing that, was when that report came out that he was getting funding from GetUp, So.
Yeah, he's done those, sit-down interviews with Kevin Rudd and Jodie McKay, the New South Wales Labor opposition leader. I think he has a go at the project. He's salty that he's not on the project himself because he probably thinks that the mainstream media should love him.
Yeah, I remember he got his tour cancelled because of the whole COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he was supposed to come here. I just thought, who in God's name would pay to watch that?
Well, people would pay to watch Jordan Shanks. He still has a decent sized fan base. Out of every like Australian that's tried to be a left wing YouTuber, like he's the only one that can be entertaining. So
he is talented. I'll give him that.
And he also
it's not like Angry Aussie who's like, if you go look at him now, he's like this fat crackhead, and it's like, Jesus Christ, just OD already,
Yeah. Are you too fat?
No, I'm not fat.
Okay, I'll take
but
your
you'd
word
never
for
know.
That's one of the some of those YouTubers who used to just do audio. and then like did their own unmasking. They've turned out to be either fat and bald, or fat, bearded and long haired, like that amazing atheist.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, unfortunately, we got some photos of him from the wrong angle.
Well, bananas are the atheist's worst enemy.
Well, this is the thing. Like, you used to be able to. They would always point to creationists and call them Banana Man because of the Ray Comfort video, and then it just got epically turned around on them.
While we're on Friendly Geordies, one of the reasons why he has such a big fan base, he has those fangirls because he tends to...
Well, because he's a decent-looking dude.
Yeah,
so.
and he takes his clothes off quite a bit these days as well in his videos. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he does like these sometimes shirtless videos with the mics above him, which I know... mics aren't intended to be a phallic symbol, but sometimes you can't get away from that.
Well, look, I think that is like a strategy in a way.
Of course,
like,
does it.
Yeah, but I mean,
he used to
if
be
you
a
know
model
how to do
for
it
Christ's sake.
properly, it can actually work. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember when all those like sexual harassment allegations started coming out for the Greens concerning staffers and that, mainly in Victoria and New South Wales. And I couldn't help but think, like, remembering from my uni days, the Green groups were the ones with the most amount of girls, and you combine that with the kind of free love ideology that a lot of them have. A lot of guys kind of look on this and they think, I can probably get my dick wet in all of this. Most of them can't, because they think that trotting out feminist talking points or something is going to win them brownie points, and that's not going to work. But the more kind of astute ones, like Friendly Geordies, have got a better strategy, I think.
We might segue now to the two recent most high-profile Greens complainers. So this broke overnight. The story here, influencer. I'm so sick of hearing that word. To fight $1,000 fine after allegedly fleeing Sydney hotel quarantine. A social influencer was given a $1,000 fine by police for escaping hotel quarantine in Sydney, has promised to fight the fee, claiming she just wanted some fresh air. Podcaster Sarah Liberty, 39, landed in Sydney from Paris, but Miss Liberty said the third night the lack of a balcony and fresh air had triggered her anxiety and she escaped. That's what she looks like there. So clearly she's going for the Clem Ford look.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting.
Speaking to 10 News last night, Miss Liberty addressed her decision, but said, people calling me selfish, I think that's really unfair because they don't understand my character. I'm someone who's very respectful of people's safety. So she said she'd fight the fine and allegations she had damaged her room and sprinkler system at the Marriott Hotel in Sydney. And she's also going to take legal action against New South Wales Police, accusing officers of damaging her things. There's another photo over there. She's an influencer with 11,400 followers on Instagram. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. I was actually listening to Avi Yemeni before and his commentary on, well, the lockdowns that you guys have in your public housing. And there was stories of one of the security guards who let someone out in return for sex.
This was, at our hotel quarantine, the private security contractors. Don't worry, we'll get into that. But there's more about her. So where are we here? The woman from Potts Point in Sydney's East was taken to hospital, be assessed before she was transferred back to a hotel. She was found at Circular Quay. Miss Liberty describes herself online as a social entrepreneur, writer, podcaster, human rights academic, advocate, and intersectional feminist. That's a full torso shot of her, and she also had a Facebook page. She's an
She looks like
an academic.
Well, she got the academic look, I'll say that, but she looks like, you remember that guy Hiscox Dice Scum girl
On
with like the Clem Ford. It's like that, but also with like the K-pop crap going on.
She's also had a Facebook page. She wasn't a Greens candidate. She was an aspiring Greens candidate. I think her aspirations might have
Well, they'll
ended
pick
now.
her next election. I don't think so. She'll be around next election.
Yeah.
Pre-selected.
They don't get sacked for that. I mean, the staffer to the New South Wales Green MP who defaced the Captain Cook statue. I mean, what happened to her? Nothing. He's outrightly refused to sack her. So I don't think that would damage her aspirations whatsoever.
She was the one who worked for Shoebridge. She was the Asian one who was one of the editors for Honey Sonnet. Well, XYZ reported on who the other one was.
Yeah,
so did we.
Yeah. Oh, as I was saying before, like you guys basically wrote it up. I basically took your work and made a few fat jokes and put my own name on it. So thanks for putting in the hard yards on that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just thought, wow, this guy's so mean.
I actually held back a little.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Oh, well. But the interesting thing is, she looks even more like how you described her now.
Yeah, I think I made her fat. I actually made her fat. Because,
let's.
Like I just said she was fat in the first one, and now she really is.
Did
fat.
you advise her to go mad or something?
Yeah, I've got the article up now, just for our audiences.
She's just bulking for the powerlifting comp meet.
Yeah,
Which just didn't stop when a lockdown went.
Yeah, fat whore who defaced Captain Cook statue has gotten fatter. So Charmaine hyphen something, and apparently she worked at Fitness First.
Yeah,
that was the joke. But now she really is fat.
She only just had like kind of wide anime thighs before.
Yes.
Charmaine Morrison Mills.
Yeah. Now she's genuinely fat.
Yeah. And you look closely, like the next photo down, Tim.
Yeah, I see. They're the mustache.
The mustache, and the double chin.
God. We've made a mess of her.
Yeah.
I think it's more the legal shit that she's probably gone through. But
oh God, she looks horrible.
But hey, guys, when she cuts, she's gonna be like fucking huge.
Piece cake.
She's gonna be a waifu.
Australian Meditations is yelling in the chat that he helped write the XYZ article.
Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Well, even
appreciated.
for us, the information that we got on Charmaine was all of that came from him. So yes, full credit to him on that.
Yeah. So thanks, Mehdi, for the info, and thanks for the fat joke.
We've got another super chat here on entropy. Please join us over here from Naughty Design. Intersectional feminists are a dying breed. They've been out-competed by men in dresses.
Yep.
Once again, men are better than women. Dick Masterson was right.
We're even better at being women than women. Yeah.
But the left does always cannibalize themselves, you know. Everything eventually kind of works against them. I mean, when they set up Chaz or Chop or whatever, they ended up killing more blacks there than the cops would hope to. So.
And Black Lives Matter, they've even, people in their name have murdered children in the US.
Yeah. More than any white nationalist has in the past few decades.
The amount of people killed in Chicago, like black on black crime, like a week goes by and the amount of deaths there eclipses all of those that were done during the lynchings in the South.
Before we finish on the Greens, let's also our incoming Victorian Green Senator.
When are we going to get to the Blues?
The what?
When are we going to get to the Blues?
The what?
The Blues, the Minecraft.
Just a bit of code word there.
Yeah, the Blues.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, when you play Magic the Gathering, there's always those people who play with like blue-colored decks, and they're always like pricks.
Yeah, I know nothings about that.
The Eternal Blue. Look at that.
We're all feeling a bit blue in Melbourne past few days with the lockdown.
Speak for yourself, Tim. I don't mind at all. It's the eternal introvert dream.
You embrace the blues.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's those apartment blocks. I mean, they're probably navy blue from their skin tone, but you know.
All right, our new Green Senator Lydia Thorpe. She says, "I don't identify as Australian." That's actually a direct quote. That's not an XYZ satire article.
This is the senator replacing Di Natale, is it?
No, this is satire. It's got the satire there. See, it's not properly labelled.
It is labelled. You can see it there.
I can just see it in the top.
Zoom in.
Yeah,
it's satire.
Yeah.
Yeah, just zoom in. You can see it.
But you see what happened
there? Get a magnifying glass.
That I actually, thought that it was believable there.
Well, that's the thing about satire. Like it sounds like something that she would say. Just like that satire about Wally Ali. It sounded like something that he would say as well.
Okay, let's get an actual, put up an actual legit.
It would be equally satirical for her to refer to herself as Aboriginal, by the way.
she would have to use the fraction 1/16 every single time.
Yeah.
Surely.
I mean, look, she has been taking some advice from Stan Grant, I think, and just turning herself into a rotisserie when she sleeps at night. She's gotten a little browner.
I think the word they prefer is exotic.
Yeah, she has got a little more exotic, a bit more vibrant.
Diverse.
Maybe she could put some rollers in her hair.
Yeah, just go full Rachel Dolezal.
Yeah, you got to get the perm next.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
identify as an Aboriginal. Are you actually trying to find like a legitimate article on XYZ, Tim? Is that why it's taking
What are you saying? That you're fake news?
Yeah, basically every single article is just lies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've got the actual. This is a legit tweet from her that I've brought up, that I'm screen sharing from Twitter, where she says, "Being without an income for 10 weeks has been hard. For those worried about the 200K we'll receive in my new job, remember my inheritance is transgenerational trauma, not stolen wealth."
Oh.
Is that what she actually said?
Yeah, that's a legit tweet from her.
All right.
You see why I fell for your article?
Yeah, I do. Gee, what a piece of work. She has transgenerational trauma.
Shouldn't it be?
What of the Irish slave trade or something?
Isn't it normally referred to as intergenerational trauma, not trans?
Oh, they have to throw that in now, don't they?
Yeah,
there'll be something like that about it.
Transgenerational.
We've got a question from Bieber Anti-Bullying. Tim, have you listened to William Pierce's National Vanguard broadcast like I told you yet? No, I haven't yet, Bieber.
You should.
Yeah.
Download them. You can get them all for free. You will want to wage Rahowa after just one episode.
I don't even know what that is. Is it like some kind of modern Minecraft?
Yeah, that's it.
I always like the ones that just like the video edited ones by that. I think it's a Greek guy who did them.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go to BitChute now to watch all of them, but yeah, they're great.
Always love the one that ends with like the big stamp and the big sound effect.
Yeah, well, I mean, his way of speaking was so engaging and kind of cinematic that it lended itself like perfectly to all those kind of graphical interpretations that have been done, I think.
I gotta listen to me some of this.
Yeah, we're hyping it up here.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I want to get off this and just start listening.
Well, that was his best work. I mean, I've read both of his novels, Hunter and The Turner Diaries, and you know they're good for like when you know the sort of controversy surrounding them, but they're not particularly engaging stories are very well written. I think his non-fiction work, particularly his speeches, broadcasts, were what he did best.
Okay, yeah, I heard The Turner Diaries is quite long.
200 pages.
Oh, okay, that's not too long.
Yeah, no, they're pretty short. Easy reads.
Okay.
Although you might be better off actually listening to the audiobooks because you can hear him make impressions of blacks and Hispanics when he reads it.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, but I will do that. You can tell by the way I'm laughing, I'm absolutely going to do that. People are going to see me in the car driving along and like, who's that idiot laughing like a maniac? What other reading material would you recommend, guys?
David Irving. Anything but David Irving.
I have no idea who that is.
I've read through his Goebbels biography. I've almost finished it, and it is quite a good read about the insights into like what Goebbels was like for his day-to-day life during certain events during that time.
Well, I've read Hitler's War and Churchill's War, and yeah, that's essential World War II history reading, I think.
Okay. Well, let's talk more about the Melbourne lockdown, guys. I think Tim may.
There's some good questions from Zorba Dundee. He has some like, is Scratch gay? Apart from Josh Jono, a Christ killer, is he also gay? Well, can't confirm on Josh Frydenberg being either a Christ killer or gay, because I mean, it's just a religion, man. But I'm pretty sure I'm not gay. Pretty damn sure.
I just wanted to say that I am in full support of Josh Frydenberg's idea of teaching Holocaust education in high school, which the Victorian government did implement. I am absolutely in full favor of that, just so long as they then go and fact check with Germar Rudolph.
Yes.
Well, it's actually the Liberal opposition before the coronavirus lockdown, the first one. They were campaigning to ban the public display of the swastika because there's been a lot of vandalization of Jewish-owned businesses with swastikas. Even a golf course had a huge swastika. Impact.
But wasn't there a couple in Melbourne though who had a flagpole with a big swastika flag in their backyard?
I don't think that was Melbourne. That was out regional, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was like in Ballarat or Belia, I think.
Okay, yeah, because I know that a lot of the neighbours are calling the cops, and they're like, "Well, we can't they're not breaking any laws here, so we can't tell them to take it down."
And it was one of those, like, it wasn't even a proper Nazi flag. It was one of those, like, didn't it have like sort of like other alt-right symbols on it as well? It's clear they just got it from
Kyrgyzstan or something.
Yeah. It was one of those flags.
It's a little bit Warhammer.
It might have also just been construction markers, like the kind that Sarah Silverman saw at a construction site.
And she feels like she has to tweet about.
Yeah.
As well as the kind that you find at the back of like Thai restaurants in Sydney, which makes the ECAJ write up as a hate speech.
Yeah. Or shining your high beams on someone.
Have you made it into the reports?
No, we haven't yet. We're gonna try our damn best. My favorite one was like the person who was just emailing them and just saying, "Put me in, you dickheads," and they put it in.
Do you know who De Vere is? We just call him by his first name.
Abramovich?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe he likes to call him Dictatovich.
Oh, I like that one.
And he, like, I'm not condoning this at all, but the people that email him anti-Semitic things, he gives them what they want. He republishes it on his personal Facebook profile, which is public, to complain about it. Reminds me of another easily triggered person who, if they receive something that's mocking, then they republish it.
Did he take shots of it and put it up on his Facebook page as well?
Yes, he did.
Oh, really?
So he's probably got...
You're giving me a lot of ideas.
Yeah, why doesn't he just... Has he got... Because that's the Anti-Defamation Commission.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, anyone who wants to say that we don't have that kind of influence in Australia, we do. And I mean, in your home state, after World War II, that was their destination of choice.
There was certain there was certain infrastructure there that wasn't really anywhere else.
Yeah, and even now, when you look at, say, like Tim Wilson's electorate of Goldstein, he was the one who successfully lobbied for those security grants that all of those groups got, for those kind of fake anti-Semitic attacks.
Tim he's one of the good ones in the Liberal Party.
Is in that respect?
He was like when he was like in the IPA, like big hardcore free speech fighter, but obviously he gets in and then he just discovers, I can just pander to this group and
governments
have it easy.
Give out money to interest groups all the time. That's not going to end. But
no,
as far as I know, he's not joining in this swastika ban that the Victorian Liberal opposition has proposed.
He's not, no. But I mean, how many other groups get security grants that big? Like, we're talking like millions of dollars.
Isn't he like
for fake anti-Semitism?
I would assume he's like one of those people that believes like the church and state should be separated, the government and there's a free market of ideas of religion. So the government can't support religious groups because that would be interference in the free market of ideas, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Landon Good, I see your comments, and absolutely that should have happened. It's a shame John Curtin was a bit too pro-American. Same with what's his name, his successor, who's skipping my head, and it shouldn't be.
Menzies was the prime minister when the war started.
Broke up, and then Curtin.
Yeah, Curtin came in just before the Japanese launched the Pearl Harbor attack and went south in the war in the Pacific.
Yeah, you did gotta love. Yeah, you do gotta love what Curtin did in terms of like
he withdrew basically most of Australian support in the war in Europe and redistributed it here and turned to America with the ANZUS treaty,
which is probably not worth it now, but considering it's like whatever country America wants to invade, Australia has to send its necessary 3 or 4 platoons, but
I guess the China's continued aggression in the Pacific, that's going to put if the US holds up its end of the bargain of the ANZUS treaty in that regard, because they, of course, they have these congressional resolutions saying China bad, don't completely take over Hong Kong, but it's basically slapping them with a wet newspaper.
Yeah, no, but the best way of resisting Chinese influence is to let in Chinese.
What is this?
I've always loved that aspect of it. Like we were told after World War II, populate or perish, and the implication of that is, we have to populate, otherwise Asian countries will take us over. So then we brought in Asian people to take us over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Iceland has a population of just under 400,000 people, and you know what? They, in metrics in terms of happiness, health, standard of living, they're always up the top, and they're doing just fine with a very small population.
Nobody thought to invade them, huh?
No.
Well, Scott Morrison today announced that if I go to the press statement here, I don't think it's worth bringing up on screen here, but because of the national security law in Hong Kong, he is going to be allowing to stay in Australia for at least 5 years. 10,000 Hong Kong citizens who are currently in Australia. Who are on,
lucky they're not South African, huh?
Yeah.
Well, no. This is
makes you
something
think.
we spoke
or
about,
Ukrainian
actually.
at least.
On
Yeah.
on our last episode of The Racist War, we talked about. Do you remember when Peter Dutton wanted to actually fast track visa applications for white South Africans?
Yeah.
Remember when that happened? So there was a huge stink about that, and everyone was saying it's all just because they're white and all of this. Well, right after that, and this is proof that we have a deep state problem in Australia as well. None of those applications were actually approved because all those people in the Department of Home Affairs said, all right, we're going to stick it to Dutton now. And they refused to pass any of them. And you can't say that this was because none of them had humanitarian concerns, because prior to when Dutton had said that, they had actually approved a lot of those applications because these people were being run off their farms, they were being slaughtered.
Oh, it's still going on.
Environment. Yeah, and well, it's intensified since then, because when Dutton said that, that was when they had just announced those land reform laws. In other words, exactly what Robert Mugabe had done in Zimbabwe before and running them all out. So it is intensified. It's gotten worse. Yet we have not approved a single humanitarian visa. That is, them seeking asylum in Australia. They have not approved one since Peter Dutton made those comments. Yet now we're being told that we have to let in all these people from Hong Kong. They can stay here for 5 years. Then they can get their permanent residency. And it's a joke. I mean, you've got it in the UK. Boris Johnson was the one who, I think, it really spearheaded this when he was announcing about 3,000 of them would be let in. And he says, well, this is a policy against the undemocratic nature of China. And then China responds by saying, okay, are you going to ask the people of the UK if they want 3,000 people from Hong Kong? How democratic is that?
I remember
Sorry, that got me going a bit.
Yeah, at the...
good work.
Yeah.
Well summarized. All I had was my sarcastic remark. You basically... it's amazing that not one location, and that
got no coverage in the media, by the way.
No, and I was going to mention that the only reason it received mainstream and political attention in Australia is because one of News Corp's reporters, Paul Toohey, went over there to report on it, and people such as us had been talking about this for years. So had Katie Hopkins, she's still continuing to talk about it on Parler, but there was this News Corp special report by Paul Toohey. There was a few rallies and that got a bit of political mileage, but then just disappeared because the mainstream media moved on. Yeah.
And I mean, and at the same time, we're still allowing record amounts of Chinese investment here. When it comes to, say, the student trade that we have here, this industry of foreign students, they were allowed to get around the travel restrictions returning here. They could do things like self-quarantine. And there was one girl who apparently self-quarantined in Dubai. And then it turned out she actually had COVID and she was out in the public when she returned.
Well, you heard about you mentioned it before, what happened in the Victorian quarantine with, we don't need the Australian Defence Force or even correctional people. We can just hire private security contractors. And I'm sure...
Wait a minute, I thought Daniel Andrews was a socialist.
Yes, that's a good point.
True that he wanted... Is it true that he wanted to get these people in because they were unionized as well? Like he wanted to...
That's the word on...
Well, they just might be Serco.
There might be an element of that, but they had the same kind of problems with those security guards that they did with the people in public housing. That is that they don't speak English or speak it very poorly.
You'll be banned from Channel 9 for saying that. You can't appear on Channel 9 anymore after that.
Oh, what a shame. My
dreams have been crushed.
We can't talk about housing with Kochi. Oh, wait, is he saying?
Carl is the Channel 9 guy.
Oh, yeah, the drunk Slav.
And
I can't drink him on live TV.
Who's because he's got a separate, different female co-host. I can't remember her name, which I think says a lot. It's basically just...
Doesn't he have a new one every 3 months? They keep replacing them.
Sort of like his wives.
Yeah.
Oh, I just saw that it's like they just kept getting sick of his shit.
He became a real cuck at the towards the end of his first stint, and then he was fired. But he got back his spine and larrikin in his time in the wilderness. But he wasn't on that discussion with Pauline Hanson, where she said many are drug addicts and don't speak English, even though Daniel Andrews, or he calls it their cultural language issues. There's depends issues.
Yeah, they depend on coming here for a good meal ticket.
Yeah, as I was saying on Monday with Maddie, it's ironic that they won't even actually Maddie said this, they won't even let the controlled opposition on the television anymore, at least on Channel 9, because the whole point is that like these people shouldn't be here in the first place. Like Pauline Hanson is getting up there and just making good civic nationalist talking points. Like she's saying, oh, look, essentially what she's saying is, look, if people are going to come to Australia, they have to respect our values and speak English. But no, these people are foreign invaders. They shouldn't be here in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I think that this shows like the kind of international nature to the current round of censorship. I mean, I'm sure you guys know that like Stefan Molyneux and a few other channels got axed from YouTube.
Yeah, well, Stefan Molyneux, he'd been cucking quite a bit recently.
He had been, but it didn't help him.
Yeah, I know. It never helps. Saying,
disavow, disavow. Well, he had Tommy Sotomayor on, who did a pretty funny bit about, there's a group. I can't say that group, but if you say anything bad about that group, that's when you get shut down.
But I mean, the thing is, it's a convenient time right now to start axing people, whether it's on YouTube or if it's someone on the Today Show, because the election is coming up. And plus also, I just think that people are trying to take the pressure off China in many ways, like the kind of anti-Chinese sentiment that spiked because of COVID. And, they think that Pauline Hanson is one of those people who's sort of stirring that stuff up.
I've just been alerted that, I'm just double checking it now, Max Egan's main Crowhouse channel has just been deleted. I'm not sure if you...
it's an interesting...
If you two are familiar with his Crowhouse channel, I would say is probably the most dedicated and outspoken anti-globalist, anti-surveillance commentator in Australia. I was lucky to interview him early on in the pandemic.
Shame I can't check him out now. Fucking hell.
He's got a BitChute channel, so he did pre-prepare, which we all have pre-prepared. Well, XYZ, they're off Facebook now.
Yeah,
are you guys Unshackled on BitChute?
Yeah, we're on BitChute, though BitChute can't keep up with a lot of our uploading because the negative thing about BitChute is the processing lasts forever sometimes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, by the same token, I think it's very important that basically we all get on BitChute now.
Yeah, and give them the non-central bank issued currency to support them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what we really need now is all those people who just got axed, those big names, particularly Molyneux, they need to start uploading all their stuff to BitChute. Like, Molyneux's just sort of kind of doing it in a half-assed way. He's not putting everything up there. He's putting everything up on Daily Motion.
He'll be gone from that soon.
Oh yeah, he will. Well, that's the other thing. I'm thinking, well, dude, like, you're at a big risk of being axed from there as well. So I don't see the point.
Regarding the way they're the way that this is done, the way that the censorship comes in. What I've noticed over the last 4 years is that it's actually a pretty steady stream. Like there's generally a steady stream of scandals that the left is up in arms about. And they always kind of use that excuse to get rid of a few people, but they always just pick off a few. And like occasionally, like they've got within a couple of days, like somebody's lost all their accounts. But generally, like it's always a slow trickle. And it seems to me that it's always done just so that everybody else thinks So, maybe if we sort of moderate our language or keep our heads down, we'll be able to keep our channels and all that sort of stuff. But it's just like they just pick everybody off steadily one by one. And they've done that steadily over the course of 4 years, so that now, as we are approaching the election, our reach is, they've just steadily brought that down.
Yeah, I think so. And they they're careful not to do it like 2 weeks out from the election, because then it's so obvious what they're trying to do.
Yes. Yeah. It's like they've been planning for it for the last 4 years.
Well, Alex Jones was basically, he was the you wouldn't say a warning shot, but basically his social media execution. It's like because it was all coordinated. He was taken off Facebook, YouTube.
Oh yeah, they
Spotify.
did it in like these waves. They took like him off, and then they did
But the fact they're able to do it, they do it all.
him and Gavin first, and then him and Gavin first. A minute.
But it does show that it's coordinated,
Yeah.
And then after, I can't remember if it was just after Alex Jones got axed, but I remember the ADL actually put out a statement talking about how they were working in cooperation with YouTube to warn them about the specific channels that were producing hate speech.
Yep. Yeah, they just came out right and said it. And they keep referring, YouTube keep referring to, like they keep consulting experts, but we all know these experts are the ADL. They're basically an anti-white hate group.
It's the same as the independent fact checkers.
Remember that old SPLC video where they have like, what's his name? Matt Potok, I think his name is. And they have that little piece of paper he has behind him with like what year and how white America is. And, as the years go, it goes down.
That's right. Yep. That's the ADL. Yeah. No, the SPLC.
Yeah.
SPLC. Yeah. I keep getting mixed up.
Oh, I mean, I know the SPLC is kind of like dying now, but like the ADL is like still going strong.
Yeah.
They all look the same.
It's like we're up against an army of acronyms.
Yeah.
And
no one's ever really gone.
The ABC and SBS, they'll still quote the SPLC and ADL in their articles about extreme far-right hate extremism.
Well, isn't it amazing, like when you look up, like, say, someone like Molyneux on Wikipedia, and it says Stefan Molyneux is a far-right neo-Nazi right-wing extremist, and then you follow down the end note, and it's from the SPLC. Every time.
It's more like
but compare that to like Noel Ignatieff, who pretty much wrote about like getting rid of whiteness, aka white people, and he talks, and he's a social theorist, a sociologist, a psychotherapist, blah blah blah, a philosopher.
What is it? A refugee psychotherapist from
Central Europe,
Central Europe, yeah.
I remember ABC background briefings doozy on anti-Asian racism during the pandemic. They went to Slack Bastard, Tim Supomasani, and a few other anti-racist groups. And
they were referred to as experts on the far right, weren't they?
Yeah. And they even
experts as in they archive like old blog posts and Twitter links.
Yeah. That's when they refer to Slack Bastard as Andy Fleming or whatever he calls himself.
Andy Duggan. Yeah.
We haven't even got to the main topic yet, and we're already an hour in. Well, you two were in Perth. You have no empathy with us Melburnians.
I know empathy with the ones in those public housing lots.
Well, 8 of the 9 towers have been released from the total house arrest lockdown, which I guess you'd call it basically level 5 lockdown, because we're at level 3 at the moment, which means that you're only allowed out for the essential reasons, which does include getting takeaway food. New Zealand, they had, they called it alert level 4, which was basically Victoria's level 3, but without KFC. That's what it was referred to. Level 5
So do you reckon?
Were people calling the
Wuhan.
police over that?
Over what?
Over the lack of chicken?
In New Zealand?
I don't know if you've heard that story, but in the UK,
Yeah, a KFC ran out of chicken.
Oh, that happens all the time here.
Yeah, and people actually started calling the police over it.
Yeah.
Seriously, look it up.
Well, it's like that Boondocks episode where you get the fried chicken flu.
Did you see? There was that footage. There was a news story about a chicken outlet that ran out of chicken, and so they had the reporters out there interviewing, and everybody who seemed a little bit husky was just losing it. They're going, "How am I going to feed my family?" And then they interview a white guy, and he's just like, "Oh well, I guess I'll just go and eat some pizza
or some watermelon."
I was at KFC Clayton one time when they ran out of chicken. This was back in February, and they got lots of abuse over it. And I had to drive all the way to McDonald's Clayton, which is near Monash University. So I had to make a 15-minute trip there. This is pre-pandemic problems.
It's like practically third world. So you say that they've actually released 8 of the 9 towers.
Yeah.
Do you reckon maybe that they were watching some of the footage of police like basically always retreating against mobs of African rioters over in London and over in America, and they thought there's only so long that we can keep these people locked down before they actually just and it's happened here too. There's only so long we can keep these people locked down before they,
especially since
they start wilding.
Especially since in most of those towers there was not a substantive amount of cases to justify locking all of them down, and this was they weren't given any notice, as Dictator Dan announced on Saturday afternoon. The police were already at the entry points to lock everyone in. And what is it? They sent them, food parcels? And this just shows you communists don't even know what people eat. They sent cereal without milk and spreads without bread.
Did you know that they also sent methadone? Did you know that?
Yes, because for those with dependence issues.
Yeah, well, I mean,
there was.
Oh, I was going to say the reason why Pauline Hanson got taken off the Today Show was those comments that she made about the people in public housing, and she was talking about. Well, I mean, there was 3 main things. One was that they didn't speak English. 2 was that because they were in close quarters, they were doing things like sharing the laundry. And the other one was that they had a drug and alcohol dependency problems. And if you look at the public statements from Daniel Andrews, he went and actually confirmed all 3 of those things. They talked about how they were working with the Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria. They were talking about how they were delivering methadone and alcohol and drug counselling services to dependent people. And they were talking about how the part of the reason why they were locked down within their rooms was because some of them may have been contracting COVID from the common spaces. So they actually confirmed everything that Pauline said.
Yeah, but Daniel Andrews used the
so it's like
PC language.
Do you have a study for that?
Yeah.
And speaking of studies, Zorba Dundee on the chat said there's a correlation between KFC running out of chicken and Apex attacks. Well, I'm sorry, Zorba. Do you have a study for that? I don't think you do, because correlation is not causation.
Well, the biggest KFC,
as we've often noted, it's the same thing with white genocide. Like when white people, when people like us point out that we're being replaced in our own country, it's called a conspiracy theory. But when a refugee psychoanalyst from Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Central Europe, then it's a study. Yeah.
But the biggest fan of KFC in Australia is actually a white guy, the Dusty Bogan. He Cheap Tuesday, he's always down getting his 9 pieces for $9.95. It's an old-fashioned stereotype. Everyone loves KFC. What is it? The cricket every year, the bucket head.
Yeah, and then there was that stupid ad
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
They
because
banned that.
apparently they mentioned that some blacks liked fried chicken. Well, the ad was, what is it?
It was like an interracial kiss.
Yeah, because he was surrounded by West Indies fans, and he was feeling uncomfortable. So it's like to make everyone chill, just share the KFC around.
That was quite a flattering depiction of West Indies, I must say.
Well, I mean, in regards to these methadone get distributed in the housing, as long as the disabled get to get their escorts on NDIS, all is well.
Right.
Well, social distancing at the moment, so you've got to practice self-pleasure in that regard, and
haven't these people heard of a plastic sheet?
Or a doll.
Yeah, I remember that Daniel Andrews on the was it on the Saturday or Sunday? He said he was working with Telstra to improve Wi-Fi signals to the towers,
so they can access their Pornhub subscription.
Is that still going? The special offer?
I think in Italy it is. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You probably get some good discounts on Hanukkah as well when that rolls around.
Just to make sure, just to tweet a HH to every blue check mark you see during that time.
I did see on Sky News that, like, when it came to the handing out of social distancing fines, they were doing it at strip clubs, yet they weren't doing it at the Black Lives Matter protests.
No, Daniel Andrews just said, you shouldn't go. I'm not going. Basically,
there was a wink, nudge, wasn't it? Yeah.
He also called it a noble cause, and he also gave the police discretion in terms of how they handled it.
This discretion is back now. Basically, Police Minister Lisa Neville, who, what was his XYZ caller again?
Big fat sister.
Yeah, she's watching us again.
God, you guys are cruel.
well, let's show a picture of her. Oh, this is actually Tim Smith, he's one of the more based members of the Victorian Liberal opposition. He's the one who called Dan Andrews a friendless loser, a lurch under the hashtag Dan has no friends. He's brought back Kennett's 1992 the Guilty Party campaign.
What did Somaliak take him all away from him when he quit?
So Somurek.
Yeah.
So there's, as Matty calls him, Dickie is Dan. There's Lisa Neville on the right there, the blonde one there. Hey, did you know? Fun fact, David, that many years ago, Lisa Neville was married to Richard Marles, the Deputy Labor leader.
From what I understand, basically, at some point, every Labor person was married to a different Labor person, to the Labor person that they're married to now. Like,
it's like
I've seen lists made of it. Yeah,
it's like Quentin Bryce and Bill. Even that bitch who was in charge of the Human Rights Commission trying to see those kids. Gillian Triggs. I think she was related to Bill Shorten.
Oh, no, she wasn't. It was Governor General Quentin Bryce.
Yeah, well, Paul Keating's daughter was at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion as well in New York.
Yeah.
So there's a connection
the
there.
other members of the guilty party, the guy with the stubble, that's Martin Bakula. He's the jobs minister, who is, his department has been thrown around as hiring those security contractors. And then on the left is the health minister, Jenny Makakos, and she's definitely not a Greek goddess. I asked Pissy Leaks Pete, who's a Greek, what Greek goddess would she be? And he said Ate, who's a Greek mythological figure who induced rash and ruinous action by both gods and men.
Induced rash. Why did my mind go in one direction there when you said that?
Well, at least you know she's keen. Well, funny thing about Mum Bakula in that picture, he lives in a suburb called Black Rock. If you know that,
yeah, that's near Sandringham. Sorry, Sandringham.
And if you know BlackRock, that's that company that's like working with the Federal Reserve to like inject trillions of dollars into.
That's got nothing to do with the suburb.
No, it doesn't. I just thought it was a fun little coincidence.
I think you're thinking that that's
Uncuckables fun fact.
I think that you're thinking that's too. You're going too far with your coincidences there. If you get my drift.
I think I am.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, did you guys, I mean, before all of this happened, were you guys supportive of the lockdown measures generally?
Oh, Dave loves it. I hate it. And I've
repeatedly... Because you're still in with the libertarian crowd, as those guys in the background there?
Yeah, I'm still an adherent to libertarian principles and Austrian economics. And yeah, keeping people under house arrest. They're only allowed out for reasons the government believes necessary. That is abhorrent that that's happening in 2020. And the reason we've got this second wave and we're back in lockdown is because, well, Daniel Andrews bungled the hotel quarantine, and yeah, there are all those diversity outbreaks.
He bungled it with a private security agency.
Yeah. Well, it was bungled with bonking and other things.
Before the lockdown, I was very much an alarmist regarding the coronavirus. I still think it's possible that there could be really something to it. But if we just look at the bigger picture, it's really interesting how governments the world over have basically shut down their entire economy. There's really got to be something a little bit more to it. Like we've got a debt supernova approaching, and like there's a big suspicion, like, well, let's just crash it and use that as the excuse.
Australian Meditations has said in the chat that Jenny Mikakos, she is Medusa, bro. I think he's referring to another Greek goddess. Can you just write there, Australian Meditations, well, just a brief definition of who she is?
You know Medusa.
Snakehead.
Oh, okay.
Snake turns into stone.
Yeah. Yeah, what's Fenian and Scratch? What's your take on like just what's going on with coronavirus? What's going on with the global shutdown?
Well, I was pretty supportive of the lockdown. I was like, no, you got to do it as hard as you can, but no one outside the house. I wanted like full Soviet style oppression in that thing, just to.
I just wanted to, you can actually listen. There's we also do a podcast occasionally called Cultured Bogans, and I think it's episode 2. We have Soap Merchant on, who used to host a show called the Darwin Digest. That was on the rightstuff.biz for a while. We talked about how this, it's obviously a Chinese thing. You have H1N1, you had SARS. You had what we call now the Spanish flu, which also originated in China.
Hong Kong flu also in 68, 69 originated probably in mainland China.
So I don't think you can get away from like the ethnic component of this, and that it seems to be a thing of, well, Asians being dirty. Right. I mean, I don't know if you guys have traveled throughout Asia or whatever, but they don't have the same kind of hygiene standards at all. And even now with like the enormous shock that, China has inflicted on the world, they don't seem to be improving those kind of standards at the wet markets and everything. And
well, China doesn't.
Yeah. But like, let's say, I mean, if the virus actually did emerge in the wet markets, that was actually a free market system, even if, Stefan Molyneux likes to tell us that it was, that communism is the real virus, Well, I don't think you can escape this without looking at the ethnic and cultural component.
Yeah.
Well, as we've said on the Uncuckables, there is nothing racist or culturally insensitive by saying that those wet markets are disgusting. Eating bats is disgusting.
Sure. But I mean, you're not going to kind of change that with, implementing Rothbardian gold standard economics.
Well, you're taking the extreme anarcho-capitalist approach there, and if you have read Rothbard,
I can see his photo
he's
clearly
got
displayed there.
it's a clear negligence tort which you could get damages from, and
that's what universal basic income is.
Okay, I love this. It's like the workaround where like it's still somehow when you go back, it's still actually because there isn't enough free market at some point, you know.
Well, you can't sell somebody poison, which is water, and they drink it and die in a libertarian society.
Right, but I mean, the only way you're actually going to get there where you're implementing those kind of torts is if you were to literally privatize everything. And even there, I would say, you know, that is obviously impossible to do.
Well, it's never been done before. That's
It's never been tried?
No, hasn't.
Well, if you read Rothbard, he'll say that it has been tried in Ireland. And if you read David Friedman, Milton Friedman's son, he'll say that it was tried in Iceland. I disagree, but, you know, they'll tell you that it has actually been done.
It's the opposite of communism. Communism has been tried many times and failed every time. That's why the song that sums up communism is One More Time.
So guys, what do you think of the you guys pick them.
Oh no, I was just going to make a quick smartass remark and say there should be a new German party called Third Time Lucky.
Do you mean Fourth Time Lucky? If you're saying what I think you're saying.
I'm sure France will base their entire defense on let's not worry about defending the Belgian borders. They'll never come through there again.
Well, we're finally getting a missile defense system now. Basically, well, because we've seen how particularly triggered and threatening China gets when you just basically call for an inquiry into the origins of how this virus went from bats to humans. But the thing is, we have such a history of shitty defense procurement, like that submarine new subs fiasco is still going on. Remember those?
That was Pine and Turnbull who caused that shit.
Remember those helicopters during the 2000s? They couldn't fly when it rained.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Like, that's one of the downsides of not having a military-industrial complex like they do in the US. We don't even have manufacturing to do it with. We have to get the parts from other nations.
Oh yeah, and if anyone who's ever worked for a company where they have to source parts and you're getting it from other countries, and you have to sometimes you will have to sign little forms saying it won't be used in certain ways or resold it to certain countries. It's fucking ridiculous.
What was it? It dragged on for ages. The tender for the submarine contracts, and it was between the Australian Submarine Corporation, the French company, which eventually got it, and a Japanese company as well. So it's basically a crappy Australian company because the former Defence Minister, Richard Johnston, he said he didn't trust them to build a canoe, or two foreign companies.
Oh, I should have got Maoris to do it then.
Oh, the Japanese, they got the consolation of now owning all our beer. Have you been following that?
I don't know. Do they own Colonial yet?
They own VB now.
Yeah. Well, there's a beer I found from going to one of those craft brewery shops called Guilo, and if you know what the word Guilo means, it's like Chinese for saying a white person.
Are you dead set?
Oh.
Yeah. There's actually a beer called that.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the Ace Ventura thing, the guano that meant bat shit.
And then he starts eating it. Yeah.
So today was day one of the 6-week lockdown, and of course Daniel Andrews says I can't rule out it being going for longer. So what did we have? 165 new cases today. They're still concentrated in the multicultural Northwest, but of course Daniel Andrews, for basically just lazy logistical reasons, is locking down the entire Melbourne Metro regions, and there's the Ring of Steel, it's called, with Checkpoint Charlies all around Metro Melbourne, but cases are still popping up in regional Victoria and now regional New South Wales as well. The Wuhan Dan second wave is
Wu-Tang.
Do you really think that the lockdown's ever going to end here in Victoria? But we've got one of the highest concentrations of diversity in Victoria, and as we know, like, they don't speak English, so they don't understand the instructions. And even if they do, it's going to be a little hard.
30% of them are refusing testing as well.
I think it will be like America, where they'll just stop caring.
Well, that's the this is the thing. We learning to live with the virus is that we need to live our lives and continue, not send small businesses to the wall, not cause physical and mental health crisis. We had a killer flu season last year when 900 died. I got the flu, you got the flu, Maddie got the flu. Blair Cottrell
it was awful. I thought I was going to die.
It with the seasonal flu?
Sorry?
Are you actually comparing like the mortality rate with the seasonal flu?
Oh, I'm saying that 900 Australians last winter died from the flu. The Australians that died from... But are you actually comparing apples with apples here? I know it's a different strand of the flu, but it's certainly, if you look at the coronavirus total death curve, deaths, even though infections are going up, deaths continue to go down, which looks like we're maybe reaching that herd immunity, because certainly with this second wave, we've got, 46 in hospital nationwide, and only 8 people in intensive care. We hardly need the, mobile hospital camps at this stage. This is the thing. That's the figures that you've really got to look at.
That's because, like, with the government exercised some modicum of control over it as in the beginning. It's not like the US or the UK or Sweden, where it just went absolutely nuts. And those 3 countries all have the highest death rate. I mean, even though Italy and Iran have it bad, they're nowhere near.
In
US,
Italy,
UK,
they had to call
Sweden.
in the military. There was an overflow of the cadavers piling up for the crematoria, and they had to call in the military to deal with it. Which also makes me wonder, about the crematoria at certain Polish camps and how they dealt with that overflow of bodies. But anyway,
as well as
they seem to take a long time to burn. What do you do with it afterwards?
The Nazi Germans, they came up with efficient ways to cremate those bodies at the concentration camp. You know that?
Especially having to haul a body up one floor. It's not just out of nowhere. But I was about to say, I know like Italy and Iran. Iran is it's a country where it's got the lowest birth rate in the Middle East, and the people there are, as a consequence, older than the rest of the Middle East. And same with Italy, and Italy has one of the lowest birth rates in the world, and so they have a ton of old people, so they are obviously going to be more vulnerable to it. But part of the reason it spread because they have the Italian family structure where like grandparents, parents, and grandkids all live together in the same house, so it's easy to spread when the kids go for a night of boozing. But it's still they still have a less
amount of Chinese cheap labor there as well.
Yeah, they still have less.
Why it spread there so fast.
Yeah, because they have a direct flight from Wuhan, but they still have a lower death rate than the US and the UK and Sweden. Even China does.
All we needed to do at the beginning was just flatten the curve so our ICU and hospitals weren't overwhelmed, which we did basically by mid-April, when we should have just reopened, and we should be open now, because it's not an airborne virus. There's no super spreaders. It's transmitted like the seasonal flu is through droplets. All of this about these fake news stories about an airborne virus, they've been debunked.
Yeah, but if you think about like the specific reasons why we have the current spike in Victoria, it's actually because Daniel Andrews didn't implement state power enough. I mean, if he had
it's because he left the front door ajar with not properly managing hotel quarantine. That's why.
With private security.
No
so
other
he should
state
have
and
used
territory has
So he could have used the ADF. Yeah, I mean those resources were offered to him. So if he had actually done that, if he used the powers of the state, if he had actually bestowed proper authority to the police to not only crack down on the Apex gang and all of those people going out there, you had almost 40,000 people in the BLM marches. And even if you're going to say that, it's less likely to be transmitted out in the open like that, you're talking about 40,000 feral SJWs in close distance constantly out there. And then also you've got all of these people who are being allowed to return to Australia. And we're finding that the vast majority of cases previous to the current spike in Victoria, so just after we started flattening the curve, the vast majority of them were coming from Central Asia, mainly India, and they're the ones that they're continuing to let back into Victoria. So if Daniel Andrews had actually gone and taken a harsher stance on it, he could have prevented the current spike.
I can't believe we're still getting returned travellers. When the international borders were shut back in late March, Scott Morrison said, get home as soon as you can. But we've got these, 3-4 month dawdlers, and you saw with that Greens feminist, she's still throwing a tantrum that she has to go to hotel quarantine. So, they are going to cap now the international arrivals, and there's going to be international flights diverted from Victoria. But basically we should be at the point now, if you haven't got back to Australia by now and you're an Australian citizen resident, you're locked out. You can't come back in.
Yeah. And I mean, 30% of the ones returning are refusing to take the test as well.
Well, it's their right to refuse the test, just like it's your right to refuse a vaccine.
It should be our right to cancel their citizenship then.
Well,
or at least if the border control can search you for any reason, they should just be able to make you take a test for any reason.
Have you taken a coronavirus test?
Well, I've had my temperature taken.
Oh, that's not a test.
It's not a test at all.
It's an invasive procedure.
What is it? Taking blood, or is it taking spit, or is it taking
going in nose and mouth, mouth?
Oh, are we really gonna compare invasive procedures to getting phlegm and mucus? You can make that stuff by just pinching your nose once or twice and giving it a good blow.
Oh, well, you get the test and then tell us what it's like.
Maybe I will.
Yeah. You should.
That's fine. I mean, I haven't been overseas. I mean, if you're coming from overseas, then absolutely I'd go along with all of that.
Though they're telling you now, even if you've got the mildest of symptoms, so a runny nose, then you should get tested or self-isolate.
Well, I haven't had that either. If I do, I will.
Have you had a runny nose?
Well, funnily enough, this is the healthiest winter I've ever lived in. So, it's because of the lockdown, because the flu hasn't also had a good chance to spread itself.
No.
I'll second that. I haven't caught anything this year. Mind you, I've been more careful too, because I get the hint of a sore throat and I'll gargle hot salty water. I haven't caught anything. Usually I would have caught something by now.
Though in 2019, even though it was a killer flu season, the economy was doing much better this time last year, even though they were more of a sick from the flu.
Oh yeah, but a lot of people get the flu and they just go to work.
A lot of people also have to go to hospital, ICU, and die from the flu as well.
well, to be fair, that's increasing spending, which is increasing the economy if we're rating it by spending, as well as like, you know, a lot of the gains that have been wiped out from the stock market, most of them have returned.
What about all the businesses that have to be shut again?
That is an actual complaint.
The stock market is not the economy.
No, it's not. And the small businesses are like a good indicator. But you see countries that you compare the UK, the Sweden and US to the countries that did hard lockdowns like us and Denmark and Norway and Germany. Their economies are doing better. So they all took a hit because, you know, we're a globalized economy, we're all linked together. And when a stock market does take a hit, that is a trickle down. I don't like using that word, but that phrase, but
where you are, WA, which is the only cases now are return travellers, that didn't even go to a hard lockdown like we're returning to in Victoria. You could still have a certain amount of guests over. Same with South Australia didn't go past stage 2 restrictions. Victoria issued the most fines, had the most police out in force, banned fishing and camping and golf. Our snitch lines went into meltdown. Apparently, the snitch lines back up with lots of calls today, which are typical communist state, jobbing in your neighbours. So Victoria, we are under. We're only allowed out at the leisure of the state, and it clearly hasn't worked.
There's a few different. I mean, when you're talking about WA here, I mean, Perth is actually the capital city with the most urban sprawl. We're really, really spread out, which is actually one of the things I like about WA. Over in Victoria, you know, you have those public housing blocks. We actually really don't have them in WA. We like when it comes to public housing, the government actually quite a while ago tried to disperse the public housing places.
Well,
that
that's
haven't
what
been
they should
houses.
do here going forward as well.
Yeah, but I just mean like when you factor in all those things in here, and also like I honestly think that over in Victoria, and you know, I'm not mocking. I'm not mocking like people from Victoria. I think besides WA, most of our listeners actually come from there. But you have this. There's a real problem with an overarching SJW mentality there. And when it came to the virus and observing social distancing laws, people honestly didn't care. They were interviewing people and asking them about that. And they would say that the real pandemic was racism. And even in New York, like you had people saying that if people contracted COVID and died, that they should actually blame the police officer who had his knee on
that was a month ago now, when they thought that the pandemic was over. But the same people who are the lockdown lovies, they then supported the mass BLM rallies. Now they're back to supporting the lockdown.
Yeah, but they're just hypocritical idiots.
Yeah, I know.
They're just leftists.
I'm saying that they thought it was over, and they actually contradicted their dear leader's own words. It's like some people want to pretend this is over. It's not. And he's like, I think we all know people who haven't been following the rules. Yeah. I saw people in Melbourne breaking those rules.
Oh yeah, and we had BLM protests over here too, and I know people who are like lockdown posting about how much they're following rules, but as soon as that individual passes away from a drug overdose, they light switch brain into gotta go protest mode, and
they don't have any principles.
But in terms of like a WA lockdown, we still had, you know, you couldn't for a while we couldn't go anywhere outside the city.
Yeah, but you could still go to the beach.
Well, you couldn't New South Wales as well, but our gyms were locked down, which, you know, I was on suicide watch then. There we still had everyone working from home. We still had a lot of public facilities closed. Like public toilets were closed and everything. So, and limited shopping.
So it was tough for you.
Yeah, well, we had. I wouldn't say we had like as bad. We didn't go as extreme as Victoria. I mean, we still had about like I think we still had the 2-person limit house visit. So yeah, we still had those. But the thing about Dan Andrews is like every time he should have used the state, he didn't use the state to control disease.
And that kind of SJW mentality I was talking about, he was absolutely complicit in promoting that. I mean, how often he goes on about how Victoria is the most progressive state in the country and everything.
And this is why I've titled the show "You Get What You Deserve," because who were the first postcodes to go back into lockdown? It was those who voted in the Northwest overwhelmingly Labor in northwestern Melbourne, and well, it's fair to say that those in the public housing towers vote left, but I don't think after this they'll be voting Labor. They'll probably be voting Green or Victorian Socialist. And it's funny, Adam Band, he's decrying the.
They'll go even further left.
Yeah, I remember the note that Adam Bant said it got dropped from the tower just for him.
What was that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that total real note that someone actually dropped.
Yeah.
Some little girl actually knew who Adam Bant was and dropped a piece of paper down the building.
Yeah, and it wasn't folded at all. It was just an airborne note.
There was just no air pressure during that day.
Yeah, fly just directly to his electorate office. So I guess Adam Bant, he is more an advocate for compassionate communism rather than Daniel Andrews as
corrupt communism.
Yeah, or jackbooted communism, because we're getting the threats again from Lisa Neville and the new police commissioner Shane Patton. If you break the rules, you will get caught and will get fined. The window for discretion is over. And what is it? Even though there is now a split in what I call the cult of Dan, there's still a lot of them. The Dan cultists, the hashtag I stand with Dan.
Yeah, and you look at his approval rating is like out of everyone, like Morrison's and Albo's have both gone up, and
it's gone down now.
Yeah, Albo's is from the bushfires, it's gone down, but in terms of like,
I'm not talking Andrews has with this second wave.
Oh yeah, relatives. Yeah, Andrews has gone down, and every other state's premier has gone up, and as well as both ScoMo's and Albo's have gone up.
Yeah. Your premier's as popular as ever. Well, you're at what is it, level 4 COVID safe now, which is they're talking about a full Optus Stadium for the WA Derby in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I mean bars and nightclubs I think are still somewhat crowd limited.
Can you dance?
Talking about the grand final being here, actually.
Can you dance at nightclubs? Nice. Because Queensland, they opened the nightclubs, but you weren't allowed to dance.
Didn't know that.
I have no idea.
I haven't had time to go to one.
Well, why don't you get out?
I don't want to wait in line.
The socially distanced line.
I went past the Paramount nightclub the other day, and they certainly were not socially distancing there. Not that I would have gone in anyway.
Yeah. And I think because New Zealand is still at alert level 1, which is the international borders are shut, but all other social distancing measures have pretty much been ditched. And there have been hotel quarantine breaches, but it hasn't led to community transmission, unlike Victoria. So you have to, we often, what was the meme that Dan Andrews and Jacinda Ardern were dumb and dumber? It's clear who the dumber one is, given, well, he's created his incompetence has led to the second wave. Jacinda Ardern looks much more competent by comparison.
Yeah, but I mean, they had even stricter policies in Victoria.
Oh, I don't think that them closing KFC led to less coronavirus cases.
I think per capita they had just slightly more.
Yeah, they did. But yeah,
that might be changed now with the Victoria thing, but you know,
like there hasn't been. It stemmed from outbreaks, which a lot of it came from the hotel quarantine breaches. But let's go through the Victorian COVID cluster fucks, as I've been calling them. So Cedar Meats, the halal slaughterhouse in Western Melbourne, 111 infections. So it was 67 workers and 44 close contacts. Then this was one of the quarantine hotels, regionals on Swanson, 54 infections, no known deaths. And then this Islamic school, Al Taqwa College, 102 infections, no known deaths. This is 102 infections directly from this Islamic school here in Melbourne's west.
Well, I remember like when the COVID started spreading in the Victorian schools, and the first ones to get them were like the blue checkmark schools, and they were the first ones to actually get closed down before it.
But you saw the common theme in those outbreaks in Melbourne.
Yes, diversity.
Diversity.
Yeah.
I mean, not just dark diversity.
Well, I mean, I remember seeing Daniel Andrews talk about how the multicultural communities were playing an integral role in flattening the curve. And I'm thinking, well, you only need them because of the problems that multiculturalism has actually caused.
Oh, he needs them for votes and for... Well, this was the branch stacking scandal in Victoria. It was they'd sign up all these ethnic groups, and the ethnic leaders would say, sign up to the Labor Party. They look after us by giving us community grants and that. It's sort of like a massive quid pro quo with your money. And it was also reported that a taxpayer-funded migrant centre, they got the people there to volunteer for the Labor Party. And so they rely on this multicultural circle, the Victorian Labor Party, not just for the power brokers, but for votes as well. The northwest Melbourne Metro wall is all Labor from Werribee up to Epping.
Don't forget Box Hill, walking to Box Hill.
Well, Box Hill actually hasn't hardly got any active cases. The Asian areas in the east and inner southeast, they've got very low active cases. And
because they know how to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. And
well, that's also because, like, when we select for students, because the reason we get Asian immigration is because of students. They tend to even though a lot of them do cheat on their exams, they still have a bit more of scruples in terms of cleanliness than the general population.
Well, as I mentioned, our former studio was near Monashini Clayton, and I drove past it on a daily basis. And this was even a year ago. I saw Asian students in masks, not because there was any virus on the list at that time, just because. Yeah,
they just wear it anyway.
I know, and just go to any airport in an Asian country, and why are you wearing it? They're just wearing it because
Michael Jackson fans.
Because they're kind of like, hey, we have this history of pandemics starting from our country.
Yeah, just Michael Jackson fans.
Though where I live, Frankston, there's 2 active cases now. There's none in the neighbouring Mornington Peninsula. There's 2 in the city of Kingston, which neighbours Frankston, which to the broader audience, the city of Kingston is probably most known for being where Patterson Lakes is, where Kath and Kim was filmed. So still very white area, low active cases. I was shopping for essentials this afternoon in the supermarket, and there's been this massive media hysteria about should wearing of masks be mandated. When I was shopping in the supermarket, didn't see one face mask in sight. Everyone was very relaxed. The shelves were stacked. I was able to get everything that I needed that was on my list, and it just shows the different type of reaction to the second wave than in those other multicultural areas of Melbourne. No one's got any additional.
No, I don't have anything to add to that.
It's getting to 10:30, Tim. It might be time to land the plane.
Yep, we've got a super chat from Savnik for $51. Thank you so much. Their super chat is 51. I've never bothered to look into this. What does this 51 mean? I noticed Australian Meditations has been spamming the chat with it.
I know. I want to know what it is.
So is Chancellor Slayer as well.
Chancellor Palpatine.
Is that null?
He denies that it's him.
Okay.
Everyone thinks it's him though, because he's got the exact same channel picture as the Senator Slayer. Which
maybe it's just a coincidence.
No.
We got anything else to talk about on, what is it? Oh yeah.
No, I think we're just about done too.
What is no, we can save it for another time.
Yeah. Another time.
Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive. She was arrested around this time last week.
Thank God. Hopefully she'll be extradited to America along with.
She is in America.
Yeah. Oh, really?
She was arrested in New Hampshire.
Are we sure?
Did you notice they were saying that apparently for coronavirus restriction reasons, journalists were only allowed to hear the audio. They weren't actually allowed to watch the video of the court proceedings.
Oh, what?
Yeah, and we haven't seen any photos of her arrest.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Quite interesting, intriguing.
Yes. Question everything, and well, if it's not actually her, how can she commit suicide potentially?
Yeah, she will be suicided pretty soon, I think.
Could they do it
officially?
Nobody believed them the first time with Epstein, but doesn't mean they might try and do it again. I mean, 52 close associates of the Clintons have mysteriously died, suicided, plane crash.
52, 53, what difference does it make?
Yeah, what difference does it make?
Well, at least they could extradite her before she got to Israel, unlike Malka Leifer, who's somehow still appealing her extradition.
Well, there was a what's it now that she can still appeal her extradition, but at this stage it can go ahead. But the Jewish communities in South Melbourne and they
want to bring her to justice.
Yeah. So certainly the Australian campaign to bring her back has been led by the Jewish community here, her victims.
And we've had members like Tim Wilson and Mark Dreyfus and
Dave Sharma.
I
can't remember what's his name, the new member it's called McNamara.
Josh
Burns.
Josh Burns. Yeah. They've all come together. Bipartisanship is broken free here.
Yeah. It should also be noted who bailed her into the plane in the wee hours of the morning to Tel Aviv.
Well, I know that she escaped somehow, and these high-profile sex fiends, they are able to disappear. I mean, she's been on the run for a year, Ghislaine Maxwell, and she wasn't in Israel or France as people speculated. She was hiding in New Hampshire all along. in the US.
Apparently.
Yeah, she joined the Free State Project.
Yeah.
Chris Cantwell ratted her out.
Found her. What is that? How far is it from Keene, New Hampshire, where she was?
I have no idea.
Oh.
Well, it looked pretty nice, so probably pretty far away.
Well, it's a small state, so it'd be about a 2-hour drive.
Yeah. It's also the it's the home of the Free State Project, but you know how all these the libertarian movement now is quite SJW. They don't realize the most confronting thing about New Hampshire's Free State Project.
What is it?
Well, it's like 98% white, the state.
Yeah, well,
that was something that Christopher Cantwell would always try to drum into Ian Freeman's head. And, you know, Ian Freeman was just more interested in talking about defending pedophilia.
As well as, you know, blowjobs for Nintendo games.
So maybe he visited Ghislaine Maxwell then. That's a joke.
They probably know each other.
Because he got, was it Ian Freeman got raided for child porn.
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't think they actually found anything, though.
Yeah, but it was part of an investigation. Nothing stuck.
Yeah. If they did find it on him, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, we've gone way off topic now.
Seems like we have.
All right, so we might wrap it up then. So how can people find the Races podcast and that? Because it's not an easy thing to find, actually. Have you seen Google and YouTube lately?
Yeah.
And iTunes? What's it called? The podcast store.
Well, the podcast that we do every week is called The Races, War and Everything. We did start a website about 2 months ago, which is theracer.biz. We also do an occasional one called Cultured Bogans. We've had Nick Griffin on that, for example. That's where we just kind of take on one topic in depth. And we have another very occasional one called The Racer Decides, which is where we cover Australian elections.
We'll try and do it live. We'll try and fucking do it live. Fuck it. In the future.
Oh, why don't you come on our live election night live streams? Because we just did Eda Monaro on Saturday night. We've got the ACT and NT territory elections coming up, and of course
Queensland coming
Queensland, New Zealand general election, MAGA 2020, make her don't go away, and of course, US presidential election.
Yeah, replace her with Winston Peters, please.
Also, we might get you guys if you would be available. It'd be great to hear a debate between you guys and Stephen Wells over the coronavirus lockdown.
Yeah, that was suggested in the chat.
Okay, yeah. I saw him calling us idiots, so that might be an idea.
Yeah,
I gave it to you pretty hard diplomatically.
No, that's fine. And by the way, we weren't being mocking or anything like that.
Oh no, you weren't. I didn't. But I was still angered by your position.
That's okay. We both.
I was stroking my chin intriguedly.
But both Scratch and I, we actually met each other through libertarian circles.
And
so that's why we kind of know a bit, about that stuff. And every now and then we feel this sudden urge to just want to signal against it. So apologies if it did seem abrasive.
Oh no, that proves that libertarian to alt-right pipeline again.
Is absolutely a real thing. Definitely.
Oh, because Dave, you were never part of the libertarian movement, but you had sympathies.
I was an anarcho-capitalist for about 4 years.
Yeah, right.
And anyway, the libertarian to alt-right pipeline is not a new thing. If you look at the New Guard, of course, the guy who cut the ribbon abruptly from the Premier at the time.
Yeah, Francis de Groot.
Yeah.
Australian Meditations recently published an essay on the Unshackled about him.
Look, he knows about this stuff way more than I do. But he started off as a libertarian, a kind of a monarchist libertarian, and he very soon went the way of kind of Australian brand of fascism.
Well, it's the thing about libertarianism. Like you get into that, and it opens your mind to the idea that democracy actually doesn't work and it's actually designed to fail. And then you just go from there.
Yeah. And that communism is evil.
Well, we knew that already.
Well, Marxism.
We won't argue with that.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Except for Juche. I am a full supporter of Juche in North Korea.
All right, let's wrap it up now. So thank you, Fenian and Scratch, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Real pleasure, guys. Real pleasure.
I'll be back on the air tomorrow night for Trad Tasman Talk, 6 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled YouTube channel. Due, I'm sure, will give it to me as a Victorian now that we're back into lockdown, and well, New Zealanders are free as can possibly be at this stage. And then Wilms Front is back next week, still twice a week, but it's back to its original time of 7 p.m. Mondays and Wednesday evenings Melbourne time on the Wilms Front YouTube and D Live channel.
Beautiful. And everybody just come to the XYZ. There's always something up every morning, always something interesting. xyz.net.au.
With their poorly labelled satire.
Even the real stories are pretty satirical.
Yeah, I mean, I fell for one on air.
We pride we pride ourselves on just making people check every single time.
Well, it's like you got to always click early life on Wikipedia.
I just figured, like, the clown mode is so crazy.
Just see normal in comparison.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, keep checking out the unshackled.net and the Uncuckables. All going well, we'll be back at this time next week, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time on the show, YouTube and D Live. Thank you everyone for watching. We had a large audience tonight, which was great. They missed us being on this channel. If you're a Melburnian, stay safe, not just from coronavirus, but also Dictator Dan's force as well.
Yes, both his official and unofficial forces.
All right, good night.
Thanks all.
See ya.
The Uncuckables.